See if we can actually restore the sun disk. Win or lose, I just want to restore the sun disk once for this video. Like here we go, jumping into a game against Lissandra and Trundle. This is a very scary matchup for us for a number of reasons. I think we'll keep this because this isn't really going to be a turn one play. Our disc will be. I think this goes back actually. This is going to be our 4. It's going to draw us a champion anyway. There we go. So we end up with a disc. We develop a disc. And then we go. If you haven't figured it out by now, we're ending Croc Week on a Friday with trying to restore the sun disk. This is a mono Shurima version. Ooh, this is a bit of a tough call for a couple of reasons. I mean, Spiritfire really doesn't do much, but both of these help us smooth things out a bit. I think you go with the Dune Keeper. That gets us closer to leveling Azir after we've played it, but I say after we've played it because I feel like we want to take a shot at this. All right, no landmarks, so we can't give ourselves elusive, but we'll happily take the Azir for later.
All things grow cold.
Yeah, let's go ahead. Let's go ahead and get the attack in. The concern is that they can double block here if they really want, and then something like an avalanche wipes our board, but the reality is that's not really the important piece here. We have an Azir now, but we want to go ahead and play our ambassador, and gives us a spicy crocodile. So here's the ravine. It's not quite an avalanche, but it's like an avalanche. And now we have to decide whether or not, well, we've got the Ascended's Rise. So this is interesting because this is a card that only works on ones in play. I know that might seem weird, but theoretically, if we play this and we bank the 1 spell mana, and then we play an Azir later, we might be in an okay spot. Like, we want to get both of these down. I think we're going to go with the Azir here. I want to leave 2 spell mana banked for something like Hourglass, if we can accomplish that. With them looking to pass, I think we just take it, actually. So they play the Trundle. We answer with the Renekton. And if they try to take a pass here, we'll happily accept and go into the Ascended's Rise. See if we can actually restore the sun disk. Win or lose, I just want to restore the sun disk once for this video. Like, I'm gonna be honest with you, gang. I do not need to end on a couple of wins or anything. I just wanted to do the thing, and it looks like we're gonna just do the thing here. So we get what I like to call the cinematic experience, because we get an Azir level, right? We're only cutscenes here. We're just gonna see cutscenes. We get an Azir level, we get a Renekton level, we restore the sun disk. That has its own animation. And then I don't know if you know this or not, but with the sun disk restored, these go to level 3, so you get some more cutscenes, amazing cutscenes, mind you. So right now we're just doing all the things. So win or a lose, I'm already happy. with what we got going on here. I'm already happy. We got the Emperor's deck going now, so they could Ruination here. They got plenty of mana to do it. What do we have in the way of combat tricks? We have Predator to run over this, though this is going to run over things anyway. We also have 3 mana back for something like Quicksand. I think you just attack here. I think this is just an attack. We also get this nice Sandstone Charger while we're at it, because we have a level 3 Azir. But the Dominus Destruction
Shatter.
going out lets us threaten a fair amount of damage. So they go with a Flash Freeze, and that's fair. Take the Entreat as well. I think this is fine. Not nearly as much damage threatened on them as we would like, but we're actually, I think, gonna overdraw if we don't do something here. And we can't play the Prosperity. That's not much help here really either. So I think we do this just to see what we're gonna end up with. Obliterate an enemy follower is the best of this bunch for us, so we'll go with that. Okay, so the Trundle levels up. They've got too many units on the board to like really run the combo, so we're kind of fine in that regard. But we do have to worry about Trundle and other shenanigans because Hourglass here is not super helpful because of the Overwhelm. So like we would have to use Hourglass plus Quicksand. And if we're going to be doing that, that reserves a decent amount of mana that we can still go with, right? That's 5 out of our 10. Let's just stall with a Dune Keeper here, actually. This will give us some information here. So was a 5, this is 6, so they have at least 2 cards in hand there. And so again, we're gonna go with the Quicksand to remove the Overwhelm and the other things. Now we have the Hourglass if we really need it, but we'll lock this in for now. Fun Dominus Destruction here because it's when I block or attack. So now the question becomes, do we wait and just try to bank our spell mana? Or do we try to develop a Nasus, who would still be level 1 at the moment? I think we just pass here. I kind of want to wait and see what they do. Yeah, here's the memories.
You will do as I command. I will remind the world of true power.
They've already done their attack, so we don't have to worry about Watcher this round. But with this being ephemeral, we do have the option of potentially nuking this just to remove even other blocker options. Let's actually see what we get off this Prosperity. Well, that's kind of funny. If I wasn't worried about Ruination, we would pop that Ascended Call next round for the memes. But we also only have the one Nasus in the list. But this does say summon. I don't necessarily think this comes from the deck. I think it's just a straight summon, so that's actually kind of interesting. Let's go ahead and play this as well.
As with all Shurima.
Because we're trying to go wide here. We can always challenge this and then try to blow it up to force through even more Renekton damage. That's always a possibility as well. I think we just let this go now.
Stand down.
This has a lot of potential for us. We know that they have the shard. But I think this is just an open attack, right? With this pulling here, knowing that they're going to play the shard anyway. I think you do something like this. I'm just trying to think about any other potential options that we want to utilize here. But I think this is what you want to do.
They're coming! Hide!
We're trying to throw enough at them that the inevitable vengeance that you suspect they have here is not enough. Like, that's the goal.
Bar the doors!
So it's not a vengeance, it's an entomb along with a double ice shard, huh? That keeps them alive. You have to assume they have the matron because they've played a Bjerg. As long as we bank full spell mana, we actually have an opportunity to survive next round, because we can obliterate the first watcher and then sandstorm the other ones. So I think this is still fine. So I think we just let this go. It's the second Lysandra down, and again, as long as we bank full spell mana here, could get the Nasus down just so that it's nice and developed. Love to do Ascended's Call, but again, we need full spell mana. So if we do it this way, we can still carry enough over.
I walk through the ages.
So what we're expecting here is a matron. There it is. And so we do this now. Memories is our biggest issue now. Because this is now officially at 0, unfortunately. So memories still beats us. Well, maybe not. Maybe not, gang, because we have the Azir down. So as long as if they obliterate our deck and we have enough that we could shuffle the Azir's Rise back in. That could theoretically be enough to get us there as well. We'll happily take that. That bought us some time. This is interesting because we really wish that we could make him hit for one more. And we don't have any good answers for like Ruination at the moment. Though, if we do this, we'll have 2 Nasus at level 3, which helps us with the Ruination problem. So let's actually do that. Because both of our Nasus will get Spell Shield at that point. It gives us a second Renekton as well. I think this is actually the right way to do this. Like a Ruination would just win us the game. This also still allows us to bank full spell mana if we really need to going into next round. More cinematics. Playing this deck is like going to the movie theater. Look at that good boy. Look at that good boy. The fearsome really in effect when you've got double Nasus on the board. Just a casual Frostguard Thrall that still can't block. The fearsome units. And again, the spell shield's important here because they specifically now need 2 Vile Feast plus Ruination to get the job done. So they do this. They have 1 blocker now. But we ship them all, and then this will make us another charger as well. We get double Renekton Dominus Destruction triggers here. And we get a surrender. We won with this deck against a meta deck. Let's we're gonna play one more, win or lose, but let's just call this a victory for the video. You know, I'm honestly still pretty excited about that last game. So we're up against Scargrounds. I expect this one to be significantly worse for us. I think that this is actually a list that is very well positioned against us because we don't have great ways to deal with the Scargrounds and we don't have great ways to nuke the units. This is like the real question about whether or not I want to keep this, but I think we will. We'll talk about the list at the end of this video, but this is a one of that's mostly here for the longer games, but we'll try to ride this out. A lot of this I think is going to be playing defense.
The desert by my side.
So I expect them to have a crimson answer. Ugh. But they do not. Our lack of hard removal, I think, is our biggest issue with this matchup. Here we'll go with the Hierophant, speed things up a wee bit. We'll take the open attack damage because it's there, and then we'll grab ourselves a champion.
All of this is ours.
Azir. Only at 4 of 10, but this is still far and away the easiest one for us to level up.
Hello, my darling.
Let's find ourselves another beefy champion. Renekton could be fun.
I'm absolutely parched.
We should be friends.
Renekton could be fun. You know, if we had an hourglass here, I would actually block with this and then hourglass it, because this is on summon, so it absolutely cycles. Let's go ahead and put some damage on the old Vlad here. Slow things down. This next round is probably Renekton and Dune Keeper, just to speed things up for leveling the Azir, but also if we can get our Renekton leveled up, that speeds things along pretty well for us. And since he's already a 6/6, we don't need the challenge options to take advantage of him. We'll also still have the 3 mana left over for something like a quicksand. But Azir is going to be at 8 of 10. Okay. So they're doing this mostly because this helps out. Helps out those units, levels their Vlad. It's a shame we don't have a way to pull units, because we would adore snatching
The Emperor commands.
that Vlad.
Cut them down.
It's weird that I almost don't want to attack with these because they just feed them more. Like, playing the Dune Keeper there is more about trying to get Azir into a leveled position. But I think you just swing with Renekton so that we can work on leveling him up for speeding up our Sun Disk. So I think you just send Renekton here.
Stand behind Croc.
Now this implies some kind of combat trick. Well, that's unfortunate, because it keeps us from leveling the Renekton the way that we wanted. I mean, Renekton still survives. We have the quicksand, which keeps health on the Renekton. Also would take away the tough and the regen here for at least a round. I think you just let this go though. That's frustrating. You really want to level him up, and since we don't have our cheat code for leveling them all. Oof. Okay. Even more of a reason, I guess, that we should have used the quicksand, right? That would have been far more devastating for them, and instead we are playing hard defense now.
This is fun, yes?
I mean, we just go down to 1 and then we die to an ice shard or a bladed ravine. Let's do this one first, I guess. We'll do this so that we get the elusive. Not that it matters. We can't finish this one off. This is also round start here. Oh yeah, we're definitely about to die.
Your help brought us here today.
Well, we'll level the Azir anyway. Gets us a little bit closer, but sadly our disc is not coming down here anytime soon. And our hand is honestly a little bit bricked. We just kept running into the Preservariums, and they have the damage there. So we did it once. That's all that matters. You can't win them all. Let's go take a look at the list. I knew when I started Croc Week that I wanted to end it with the Shurima only Restore the Sun Disk version of a Renekton deck. It's not technically a Renekton deck. It's really more of an Azir deck, but not a traditional one. Obviously, Azir is what gives you the Emperor's deck, but it has Renekton in it. It's got a little bit of everything, and I knew I wanted to end with that because it's just a fun archetype, not necessarily the most competitive, and this is certainly not even necessarily the best one. I've been trying to work out the kinks, but we're going to go through at least the current version, and then I'll talk about potential changes that you can make if you want to play something similar. As always, deck code will be in the video description, link to mobile edits, etc., etc. So, right out of the gate, one buried Sun Disk, because you're going to draw it. You could run multiples of this if you're afraid of your opponent blowing this up and ruining your parade, but the reality is, being honest, gang, the likelihood of somebody blowing this up and then you still playing a second one and still restoring the Sun Disk after the fact. So, you know, they blow it up on round 5 or 6, and then you play another one and then survive long enough to restore it. It's pretty slim. Now, there was an existing bug where if you had multiple of these out, instead of champion leveling, pulling both of them down by 10, it would pull whatever the lowest one was down by 20. As far as I know, that is not intended, and it's a bug, and as such, did not want to build my deck in a way that exploited that. If at some point we get official word from Riot that that was always the intent, then yes, this jumps up to a 3 of immediately, because that is imperative to playing the deck. But for now, it's a 1 of, and it's going to start in your opening hand. You're going to draw it no matter what. All right, Ancient Preparations helps smooth out your draws, gives you a nice cheap early play. Also is a landmark, which is important for if you're trying to trigger your Psy Scout. The 2/4 elusive on the Psy Scout is really good as far as stats go, but even more so because this blocks other elusive units. And so while going on offense to get chip damage in is nice when this happens, the reality is I'm including this as a defensive option for things like Burblefish and Zap and Fizz and so on and so forth. So this is in here to help with that. Dune Keeper is great for leveling up Azir, and it's also just a nice early game start if you get it. Hourglass. This is here for saving your champions, because it's imperative that you get to level them up to restore your Sun Disk. But also, Hierophant is on summon, and so sometimes you can use Hourglass to flip one of these 1 or 2 extra times, and then that speeds up how fast you're restoring your Sun Disk. In fact, there might be a version somewhere that's not only Shurima, just hard runs 3 Sun Disks and you mulligan for it, but then perhaps you are using something like Shadow Isles to continue to flicker this. I'm thinking about cards like you know, Chronicler of Ruin, for example, to speed up your Sun Disk restoration. Do I think that's a good deck? No. But it's something that could exist and be a lot of fun, and maybe when I go back to playing memes, because after this, I've got to grind a little bit. I'm still stuck in the bottom of Plat Gang. But, you know, maybe sometime in the future that's a meme we'll try. But Hourglass is just multifaceted here. Chronomancer, solid body, has the predict effect. Everything about this deck is trying to smooth out your draws to make sure that you're leveling up your champs as fast as possible. Preservarium helps with hitting your Psy Scout. Azir, pretty straightforward. You want to restore the Sun Disk and play him so you get the Emperor's deck. Currently a 1 of Devoted Council, because we don't have a lot of ways to gain health and our defensive options are limited. Hierophant speeds things up. Solid body helps you restore the Sun Disk. Quicksand is a solid defensive tool. Obviously, we don't get access to things like Hush, but Quicksand is pretty good as a replacement. Psy Scout is your elusive defensive option, but it also has predict. Ambassador is fantastic. One of my favorite cards in this list. Making sure that you always tutor a champion and it gets +2/+2 is huge, specifically on Renekton, because we, right now anyway, don't have main deck ways to trigger the challenge portion, and so you're relying heavily on the +2/+2 triggering for Renekton. Now, I will talk about some alternative ways to build this in a moment, and that includes sticking in some exhaust, but right now you are relying on an Ambassador hitting your Renektons. 2 of for the Rite of Negation to make sure that some of your more important spells go off. A one of Nasus, right? Just because when you restore the Sun Disk, you draw one of each of your Ascendeds. And so making sure you have some kind of split, I think, is key. But you certainly want more Azirs than anything. So I went with the curve, right? 2 Renekton, 1 Nasus. 1 Ascended's Rise. This levels up all level 1 Ascended allies, but it doesn't level them up if you're not having them on the board. Sorry, my brain fried halfway through that sentence. You might have seen me looking as if I had just had a stroke, and it's because about halfway through I realized it was going to be a grammatical nightmare. So let's try this again. This will not level up Ascended allies that are not on the board. That's what I meant to say. Basically, you need to have the champions on the board for this to work. In game 1, for example, in this video, you may have noticed that our Nasus did not level up, even though we played this. So this card is not as bonkers as I originally thought it was, and yet I still find myself wanting to include more of it, and I'll talk about that in a moment, because we're almost at the end, and then I'll talk about substitutions. Ending with a 2 of Spiritfire. This is a card that routinely impresses me when I do get a chance to play it. I think it's really good in the meta at burst speed because it can buy you a lot of time, can help you nuke some problematic boards, specifically for a deck like this that's going to take a little bit of time to develop. I mean, you're basically just playing blockers until you restore the Sun Disk, and then you actually try to win for the most part. And so this card helps a lot in that regard. Substitutions now. Let's talk about other things you can do. This 1 of Devoted Counsel is just something that I was toying with, and so because it was in today's video, I'm going to include it. I stay true to what I was playing when I share it. However, I really feel like this could also be at least 1 exhaust to help you with the Renekton issue, and honestly just to help you dictate some better early game trades. Or it could be another Ascended's Rise, because I have a love-hate relationship with this card. You don't want this card when you don't have champions, and the fact you have to have the champions in play makes this that much more difficult. But as you had seen in game 1, when it works, it's the best way to just restore the Sun Disk. More often than not, when you do actually cast this card, this is a 7-mana restore the Sun Disk. The issue is there's also plenty of games where you draw it and you're not casting it because you don't have the champions, or when you do have the champions, you're not confident you're going to be protecting them in a meaningful way. You expect them to disrupt this. It is clunky, but when it works, it feels really, really good. And so I go back and forth on this very often. So Council could be another Ascended Rise. Council could be something like an Exhaust. Similarly, you could cut down on the Preservariums because we have so much Predict that drawing more cards isn't usually as much of an issue as just drawing the right cards, but I wanted to include them as just more ways for you to potentially get the elusive on your Scout. So if you want to go a little bit more proactive, Preservarium and Scout could probably go down in favor of cards like Exhaust or some other more proactive tools, if that's something you want to do. But I wanted this to be a restore the Sun Disk, and so I was just trying to kind of play defensive until we could pull it off. So anyway, this was the list I was running. As always, deck code, blah, blah, blah. I know I said it earlier, but just a reminder. Also, as a reminder, if you're new, hit the subscribe button. I almost never pay attention to my YouTube analytics because I make these videos for fun. I'm just being honest. And I glanced at my dashboard the other day because I've been experiencing a lot of subscriber bleed as I have been more active again, and people who followed me for Elder Scrolls Legends content don't want to see the Runeterra content, so they've been leaving. Blah, blah, blah. But one of the things I noticed that actually just stood out to me, because my day job is very data analytics inspired and heavy-handed in that area. One of the things that was interesting to me is that half of the views I do get are from people who have not subscribed. And I am a horrible salesman. I should be saying it probably at the beginning of every video, and you very clearly know if you do follow me that I do not, but I'm saying it now. If you're new and you have not subscribed, you should click that red button because it's free and it makes me smile and feel good. I'm done ranting now officially. Croc Week was a lot of fun. It's time for me to actually focus on climbing the ladder for a bit though. I love you all. Thanks for taking the time to watch this, and until next time, may you walk on warm sands.